Hello everyone, welcome to Wrestling Royalty. I am of course Andy, and tonight we are going to be talking about this weekend Survivor Series War Games 2023, which is going to happen tomorrow night in Chicago in the All-State Arena. And tonight I'm going to be joined by Dan Hargreaves, who is also from Gimme Hull Yeah. We normally have Sam on a Friday night, but for 1 week only, well, for this week only, we have upgraded to have Dan on the show instead. Sam is, as you might have heard the other night, he is away and he is having a bit of a pampering session somewhere in, I think it's the Peak District, the Lake District. Either way, he is probably face down, and I will end that sentence there before we go any further. And let's have a big flashy intro before we go any further. And as if by magic, Dan himself is here. Big welcome to you, Dan, on this, a Black Friday, as well as a payday for a lot of people. How are you doing? How are you feeling? And thank you very much for joining me.
Oh, thank you very much for having me. It's nice to be on a different channel where I don't have to do a lot of the backstage admin for a change.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
You know what I'm like. I'm doing thumbnails. I'm doing little animations for the Gimme a Hull Yeah one. But it's nice to actually have a chill out and just have a bit of wrestling chat for a change.
Yeah, and as you can see, if you aren't already subscribed to Gimme a Hull Yeah, you can see that flashy belt in the background, which I believe is the predictions belt for Gimme a Hull Yeah. This year, they're kind of taking a bit of a hiatus, it feels like, doing the prediction shows. So I managed to rope Dan in to come onto my show instead. But yeah, we'll have Sam back, I'm sure. And it's always a pleasure to have anyone from Gimme a Hull Yeah on. You guys always do some fantastic work. So before we go any further, Dan is the guy on the channel for Gimme Hull Yeah who covers Monday Night Raw. So we normally get SmackDown, so it feels quite apropos to have a Survivor Series weekend. We've got the opposing side to Sam. We've got Monday Night Raw's representative for Gimme Hull Yeah is on. And I hear, Dan, this is a rumor. You're a big snack aficionado.
A little bit. Pretty much every Monday night I have people asking me what snack I've got, because I do sit and eat a lot of snacks. Sometimes it will be a couple of cookies, it'll be pepperami, Baby Bell. This side of my sofa is usually full of snacks that I sit and work my way through on a Monday night. So if you are a bit of a snack aficionado, you want to tell me about some of your favourite snacks, come and see me on a Monday night, and I will probably try and grab some snacks that you'll recommend.
Well, I know there is one snack aficionado who does follow the channel, which is Dean. I know he always, for a premium live event, has a countertop full of snacks, and he sometimes gets like a Papa John's pizza in, or he might get he likes to have a good spread on, even if it's just himself. He's up at 3 a.m. devouring a load of cheese sticks or something. But yeah, he'll be right there. If Dean comes on, I'll get you to ask him what his snacks are going to be this weekend, because I'm sure he'll be tuning into a bit of Survivor Series action, which is why we're here today. So I've got Dan on because when it's the Survivor Series, it is one of the big four. So it's very important that we are giving it, its time in the sun, because WrestleMania always steals all the headlines. SummerSlam, normally a big event. Royal Rumble, everyone's, like, I would say it's everyone's favorite, really, like when you talk about deep down. And then Survivor Series is maybe seen better days. So I did say in the description, we'll talk about that. We'll give it a little bit of breathing space. And I would like to let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on Survivor Series. Has it had its day? Should it still be part of a big four, or are things like Money in the Bank taking over it? We'll discuss that throughout the night, but I'm really keen to hear anyone's comments. So let me know in the comments, do you have a fond place in your heart for Survivor Series? Or is it one of those sort of paint by numbers ones and they're just trying to find something to do with it? But this year we are getting War Games again. So to kick things off, let me add this in. We'll start with one of the War Games matches, because it feels a given that one will go first and one will go second. Do you think this is one that's going to kick things off tomorrow night, Dan?
I hope so. I've got a lot of things that I would like to see in this match. Some of them more likely than others, but the match itself has had a really good, enjoyable build. Damage control of being able to bulk up their numbers a little bit to make it feel like a legitimate War Games match. The recent addition of Kairi Sane was incredible. So much fun to have that many different characters, but all of them incredible performers in one match. But yeah, it's a match I think will kick off the show because you've got to have the Randy Orton return as the main spectacle at the end of the show for me.
Yeah, it's a weird one because we're kind of going to have to meander through a few thought processes as to why that might be the main event. Is that going to be the big pop of the night? There are other things and subjects that we'll probably touch upon throughout, however long we're on for tonight. But there's an elephant in the corner that will be addressed at some point, I promise. We are going to get into the whole CM Punk. We are going to get into that at some point tonight. And to be honest, it's probably a good job that Sam's not here because Sam has some very forthright opinions, as maybe does Dan as well. But we are going to be discussing CM Punk and the possibility that we might see him in Chicago tomorrow night. Leave that with us. We will get back to it. Again, feel free to comment at any point if you have any thoughts about CM Punk potentially coming back. Will we see him? Will we not? Let us know in the comments. And while you're there, give the subscribe button a click as well. Give us a like on the video. It always helps to boost the numbers on the channel, and more people can see us, and more people can join in the discussion. And we build a community like they've got over there at Give Me a Hole, yeah. And it's one to definitely be a part of. So we're going to kick off, and we're going to talk about this one in particular. Dan, you touched upon it there. Damage Control has boosted their numbers. What do you think of this new look, Damage Control, which seems to be heavily influenced by Japan as well?
Yes. I have got so much love for every member of Damage Control at the minute. Everyone is been absolutely fantastic. It's been, like I said, reinvigorated with Kairi Sane being added. But for me, I don't think it's going to last much longer.
Okay. Just in its guys, or just in general, it's going to disband?
I've got in my notes for my booking, which I've sent you a photo of. I have got actually someone being kicked out of Damage Control tomorrow night. Okay. Whether it's official, whether it is just Damage Control it completely implode. But I don't have Damage Control as this unit moving forward after tomorrow night.
Okay, that would be interesting. So if you were pushed for an answer, who is going to be the person that's going to be ousted out of Damage Control?
For me, out of all of them, I think Bayley might be kicked out. There's been quite a bit of sort of interaction with Bayley seeming a bit jealous of Io Sky. And I do think that if you take Bayley out, you've got an incredible faction there that could be, it's such a typical cliche, but a dominant foreign heel faction. So what's your thoughts on that to start with?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It certainly seems to be the way that they're playing things, in the sense of Bayley is almost having to pretend at times that she knows what the plans are and what's going on. And even like last week, I think on SmackDown, Dakota Kai said she was translating for them and said, she said someone here isn't actually part of the group. And it kind of insinuated that Bayley wasn't going to be part of the group before switching and going, actually, like Oscar was, needs to be officially introduced into the group.
Yes.
It does feel like one of these doesn't fit. And I actually quite like Dakota staying with the group of Damage Control and acting as that kind of mouthpiece, because I'm not sure if there's a timeline set on when she'll be back from her injury. But she does have experience crossing Japan. So it flows quite well having Dakota Kai as a mouthpiece for the rest of them, because one of the things I think they would struggle with is who would be the talker there, because although they can all obviously cut promos in Japanese with great ease, and it's almost like their character comes through in their wrestling and it comes through in their personality. But when they talk, I think the American audiences in particular seem to take great pleasure in shooting them down and doing what chants, which can be very disappointing. But if they don't understand what they're saying, they don't understand the motives, then it becomes very difficult. So keeping Dakota with them would be a great move. And it also frees up Bailey to potentially move back to her maybe hugger persona or something, or maybe something a bit in between what she's been doing in the hugger.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I have got is I would quite like. I mean, we've just been talking about damage control, but I would quite like a three-way face-off: Becky, Charlotte, and Bailey. Hopefully, at some point in the match, and you've got all three of them stood there, and they're looking around as if to say, "Well, someone's missing." Because you've got three of the four horsewomen. I think it'd just be a nice little cheeky nod to Sasha Banks at some point. Which I think would be quite fun as a little spot for the sort of true fans of wrestling because of how important the four horsewomen was 7, 8, 9 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got Tom in the house from Tom Talks Rubbish. Who's always a absolute gentleman for commenting and getting involved. Really good to see you, Tom, and happy Friday to you. I hope you're doing well. He's got some great interviews that I've seen him putting out on his social media. So go check out Tom Talks Rubbish, another friend of the show, and definitely worth a subscribe. If you want to get to know a little bit more about the sort of journalists and the people behind wrestling writing, he's the best channel, in my opinion, to go find that out. He gets some great guests on there. Including myself. I've been on there. Sam's been on there. Dan has been on there as well. Even Sam's wife has been on there. So he gets a good variety of our sort of wrestling fraternity. So, yes, one thing I would like to ask you about is obviously Sasha Banks isn't there. And it kind of feels like there's someone on the other team that is... I don't know, it hasn't been exposed too much, I guess, to wrestling audiences on a big scale, which is Shotzi. So this feels like Shotzi's big chance to make an impression. What do you think we can expect from her tomorrow night?
I would love to see Shotzi get a really good run, being able to show off some of her skills, because I think Shotzi's a great performer. She did have a bit of a stinker against Ronda Rousey last year. I think it was Money in the Bank, maybe.
Yeah.
And a lot of people slated her for that, and I don't think it was all deserved. And I think Shotzi could come out with this one looking such a big star if they book the story of the match right.
Yeah.
I mean, she had a big change in her look lately, from the big bright green hair to the black spikes, which is such a punk look. It's still such an awesome look.
Yeah.
And if you don't know, go and have a read up of why she's done that. There is a very important reason for her actually changing that look.
Yeah.
But it's someone that I absolutely loved the bright green hair. I love the Neo character. I love the crazy sort of stuff that she does. And I think that she should be the star of the match from both teams, for me anyway, because she deserves so much more success than she's probably not getting, that she should have coming her way at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. We've also got Dean, who is the fellow snack aficionado. Dean, we were talking about you earlier. Dan is a big snack fan, and you're often on his Monday night streams when he's watching Raw. He has a sort of following of who he gets asked what snacks he's having, and I was saying that you very often will have a big array of snacks for premium live events. They are fruit pastels, and was that cupcakes?
I've got snowman winter cupcakes. I've got snowman. I've got Santa Claus. I've got a penguin in a Christmas hat.
And Kin Buenos as well. My goodness.
Oh, yes.
So, Dean, let us know what you're going to have tomorrow. Tom as well, or anyone who's watching, let us know what snacks you get you through the premium live events or the late night WWE streams that you have. So for Shotzi, if anyone is kind of aware of her work either on NXT or before that, I think she was in Evolve as well. She is very much her whole... I guess it's very Jeff Hardy-esque, where she likes to take risks. She uses her body as a weapon. She's very much a case of a lot of sort of cannonballs, a lot of sentons, etc. So this War Games match feels like it plays very nicely into her kind of skill set. I'd be surprised if the big sort of moment within the match isn't given to Shotzi. She will probably take great relish in jumping off of the structure. We've also seen Io Sky when she was named Io Shirai down in NXT. She did a moonsault with was it a moonsault with the trash can on, or did she just jump off with the trash can on? I can't remember.
I think she did the crossbody with a trash can on her, but she's also done moon on the top of the cell as well, I think.
Yeah, so you've got
for the big spots.
people here, and I would love to see. I also think Kairi Sane has one of the most beautiful looking elbow drops, because it actually looks like it would hurt rather than a sort of like gentle landing. It's very much a case of elbow down. I'm gonna hurt you with this elbow. So yeah, really cool. And I think am I right in saying tonight they're doing a vote for who should get the advantage? It's sponsored by Ruffles, which are crisps. So talking of snacks, we've got a snack sponsor for the match as well. So yeah, interesting. What do you think of that? People voting on it. It's very Taboo Tuesday, isn't it?
It's not rigged at all to get the heels to start the match.
I don't
think that's going to be fair whatsoever. WWE are going to rig it to have the heels start the match because that is what you want in a War Games match. You don't want the faces to have the advantage. That's not the point of the story. Yeah,
I guess but the thing is, when you read and hear about like people talking about Taboo Tuesday, the ones who've been like involved that have got their own podcast and have that kind of access, they're adamant that Taboo Tuesday was always completely organic and that they go with whatever it is, and obviously they just have to, in this case, have two different ways of structuring that match. Now, there is a chance that if the faces win, which I actually think the faces probably will win, it plays nicely against the main event, which I think will be Judgment Day, and Judgment Day have that advantage. So you have the heels. So it would be nice to have how does it play out when you've got one face side have the advantage and one heel side have the advantage. So I wouldn't put it past them that Becky Lynch's popularity will see them through, but yeah, it definitely feels like a kind of match where you want to see the faces come from like a disadvantage and kind of get ahead of them. So we'll see. And we've got a bit of a snack conversation going on in the chat. Not sponsored by Ruffles because they don't sponsor the channel; they just sponsor the War Games match. He's opted to go for his usual Papa John's and crisps, but he not to go for it. He's instead got for Dean. I'm disappointed. This sounds a bit too healthy for you. Hummus and dip. That does not sound like Dean. We'll see.
Dough balls I can get on with
salad cream on his chips as well. I'm not strangers going on here. Dean, I thought you from up here in Newcastle. I thought that's salad cream's not a well-known condiment. Anyway, so we'll. What do you think? What's going to be your prediction for this match? What we're going to see? Who's going to be standing tall at the end of it?
So the whole thing that I have got as my main note for the match was I'd have Damage Control be dominant until Becky gets in the match as the final woman. Have her take over. Damage Control end up with the win, but Bayley gets beat down for causing some sort of either distraction or hitting someone with a weapon or something. The rest of Damage Control attack Bayley, and Becky makes a save, turning Bayley babyface and having her taken out of Judgment Day, out of Damage Control. Sorry, it's completely crazy, but that's what I'd want to see.
Yeah, similar to the other War Games match, it feels like they've had a great build to this. There's been a few twists and turns. One side feels very organically put together, and one feels like we've got to do something to overcome them. But I'm interested to see where they go with this, because I genuinely could see both teams winning in different winning situations. So you either have the very strong team of Charlotte, Becky, Shotzi, and Bianca go over because that's like a dream team, with the addition of Shotzi to give her that exposure. Or you've got the heel team who, to me, it actually makes a lot of sense for someone like Kairi Sane to get the win to establish her. You've also obviously got one of the women's champions on that team. So it does feel like there's reasons for both teams to win. In terms of who can afford to lose, very much Becky, Bianca, and Charlotte can afford to lose. And in some respects, and I'm sorry to say this, it feels like Shotzi could be in there to take the pin, because out of all of them, if she takes the pin, people aren't going to be that bothered. Or you build her as a star and she gets the win. So as you say, lots of different variations of what that can happen. So again, let us know in the comments, who do you think is going to be walking out with the W here in what I think is going to be a great match. If it's anything like the build, then we're in for a bit of a treat, especially if it is the one that kicks off, because it would be nice to have a bookended War Games where you kind of open and close with it. But yeah, let us know in the chat. Dean is a hashtag rebel. Doesn't surprise me. And no, having 30% reduced fat sour cream. Sour cream? Is it sour cream or Sally cream? Because I'm very confused which one you're having now. And he's going to drink Pepsi out of a Coca-Cola glass. Oh, is that a reference to Pepsi Phil? There's no. Right, here's another one, an interesting one that's had a bit of a quick burn, I guess, since something happened at the last Premium Live event, which was at Crown Jewel, where we saw Rey Mysterio lose his US title, and it was somewhat blamed on Santos Escobar, who then just fully turned heel. He didn't hide anything. He just went, you know what, fine, I'll be that guy. And Carlito was the one who called him out. So we've got Carlito, who presumably is representing Rey Mysterio and LWO, versus a now heel Santos Escobar. What have you made about this build? Because this is one that it feels like a match that we might have seen on a SmackDown, but we've got it here on a Premium Live event. What are your thoughts on these two meeting?
With Sam doing SmackDown, I sort of normally flick through SmackDown on the Saturday or the Sunday just to keep my eye in. But I did SmackDown last week for Sam, if I remember rightly, just because it was a show I wouldn't mind watching, and it was a good show. This match, I do think it could have been on as a main event match on the SmackDown every day of the week. I do think if Rhea hadn't gone out injured, it would have been Rhea versus Santos in this match, though.
Yes,
what I think was the original plan. But with Rhea's injury, obviously he's had to take time out, and that's probably why this feud has been that quick shoehorned into the card.
Yeah, that does definitely feel like it's a plausible explanation, as it's kind of been explained. Rey Mysterio has had some surgery, which he's needed apparently for a little while, but I think it's got so bad that he actually had to have it now, and he couldn't kind of go on. And presumably there's a chance that could bring him back into the picture for WrestleMania season or Royal Rumble season even, and pick up this feud with Santos. In the meantime, we can have someone like Carlito, who is still in fantastic shape. He's recently come back. Probably needs a little bit of something to make sure fans can get behind him, because we've got a whole new generation of fans who don't really know who Carlito is as a wrestler. They heard what commentary have told them, but it'd be nice for them to see what it's about. There's also the possibility that we might start to see someone else align themselves with Santos, because before they were the LWO, obviously we had the whole build in NXT where himself, and I'm now going to struggle because I'm trying to remember their names from that have come up with him. Dan, help me out.
You've got Cruz del Toro.
Is it Joaquin Wilder or something?
I think so. I'm just going to bring it up. Del Fantasma. You had Joaquin Wilde, Santos Escobar, Cruz del Toro, and then you've had Zelina Vega and Rey Mysterio as well.
Yeah, so Legado del Fantasma were like a trio down in NXT. They moved up, and then they kind of introduced Zelina Vega as the mouthpiece. And Zelina Vega's been doing a great job here, so presumably she will be involved at some point in the night, most likely in Carlito's corner. Maybe we see her make a bit of a heel turn and align with Santos, or we kind of just see something going in a different direction. We've also heard the rumors today, which are Authors of Pain are apparently included in the Survivor Series program, along with Gallus as well. So we'll discuss Gallus stuff in a bit, but yeah, there's rumors that maybe Authors of Pain might kind of align with Santos. I don't really know the link there, but it'd be interesting to see them back. Or they just, you know, the tag team division is growing because under Triple H, NXT was great for tag team matches. So maybe we're just seeing the tag team division build and build and build, which is great as well. I would ask you for this one, though, on a sort of scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you for this match?
I know it'll probably be a good match. They're both brilliant performers, but like we just said, it could have been as a main event match on SmackDown side. I'd probably say out of 10, I'd probably say I'm about 4 or 5.
Yeah, I'd go with that. There's not much sort of heat behind it to make it a premium live event match. It definitely feels like maybe one of those matches back in the Attitude Era that would sneak on the card, but you'd very much have 2 minutes to do something. Whereas I feel like if this was on SmackDown, you could give them a good 10-minute match where they would probably do a great job, and it would be more well received than it's probably going to be here, sandwiched in amongst some pretty meaty stories. But we'll tidy this off. Are we going to see A, an apple spit out, or B, are we going to see who we're going to see win as well?
I've actually got Santos Escobar winning with the help of Cruz del Toro. I've got Cruz del Toro's Lena Vega coming out to the ring to try and sort of stop Santos Escobar go too far, but then Cruz del Toro aligning himself with Santos Escobar moving forward. Yeah.
Okay. Bit of tomfoolery going on and a bit of moving parts, which would make it a bit more interesting. I think you've got to give this something has to happen to get people invested in the finish. Otherwise, it might just be a bit of a flat, like, oh, I need the toilet in the arena, and then people will be using it for sort of moving around a little bit. So they need to be careful that they've got something like that up their sleeve. I'd be shocked if Santos Escobar doesn't win here, purely because you need to heat him up and make him like a legitimate threat or better than Rey Mysterio, heading into what is an inevitable clash whenever Rey comes back. So where are we next? We have The Miz versus Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship. This has been quite a big build. We saw the last few weeks, we've seen this build in. And I'm going to ask you straight out the gate, are you buying The Miz as a babyface?
Never in a million years.
Fair enough. Elaborate, explain why you just can't see The Miz as a face.
Because he still gets so much heat from the crowd. No matter what he says, he still comes out with the heel persona, but with the official is a babyface. But there's no way that Miz is ever going to be a babyface unless he's going up against someone that had 2018 Roman Reigns heat of go away, we don't want you.
Yeah.
No one is ever going to buy The Miz as a super good guy because he's just got that cockiness where it's only ever going to be a heel persona.
Yeah, he's got that ass-eating grin. I think he's just done too much as a heel for anyone to really buy him as anything other than as like a Weasley character that is just always looking to cut a corner. And even like the way that they presented each of them on Monday, like he did a low blow. Like that's not a very face thing to do. So and even then, I can't even see him as a tweener where he's kind of flopping between, because I don't know, his just whole persona has been based around the I'm better than you. I'm like, he's such a smug guy, and I've spoke to him, and he's a genuinely nice guy off camera, but that's never been the way that it's ever been explained on camera. So and also, quite frankly, in this situation, he's going against what a lot of people think and say is the best wrestler, as in technically, in WWE. So he's fighting an uphill battle against a fan favorite who is trying to be a heel in even interviews off camera, off screen. Sorry, he's being a heel, saying all these like chatting this against all the legends of WWE, and people still love him, and they're saying, "Oh yeah, he's telling the truth." So yeah, it's ridiculous. But they've coined this as one of the best Intercontinental champions against the longest reigning Intercontinental champion. What do you reckon in terms of how they've presented this? Is it the right way to have presented this feud? And was this the right feud for this time of year as well?
I do think it's the right feud. I do think it's the right person going up against Gunther at this point of his reign, because The Miz is always going to be associated with the IC title. Is legit. Is if he wins the title, he joins Jericho as the tied with 9 title reigns. So for me, you've got the longest reigning champion going up against someone that has had success with this belt. So it makes sense from that point of view. It's also someone that Gunther can beat quite decisively, and The Miz isn't really going to lose any momentum from it. So both men can still come out of it looking good, looking strong. And it just gives Gunther a nice match to build from now until Royal Rumble. And then Royal Rumble till WrestleMania, you've got another story being set up there.
Yeah.
So I think that right now it doesn't have to go from now until Royal Rumble. It can be tomorrow night at Survivor Series, and then that could be the end of the feud. It doesn't need to be anything more than that. It's a nice, simple story. I want to be better than you. You're the main guy at the minute, so I want to beat you. Gunther wins, and then you have the feud end. The Miz is resigned to being, I'm not good enough to beat Gunther.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't see this being a long feud. I do feel like they could blow it off tomorrow, basically. And I don't want to see the Miz absolutely squashed. I would, as I said on Wednesday night with Sam, Gunther has this ability to pull great matches out of anyone, and it doesn't matter what their skill set is. It doesn't matter how they kind of normally work. He has this ability to adapt to that and make it a spectacle, because the example we'll always go back to was Braun Strowman. We saw it with Madcap Mouse. He had matches against them, and people don't really expect to see great wrestling matches out of them, but he delivered that. And The Miz isn't a slouch. He's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. He is just, what he does is very good. And even recently, we've seen him introduce a few new moves into his skill set, his moveset. And I genuinely think this could be a great match if they've crafted it well together. And I think The Miz will probably want to prove that to a lot of people, to say, actually, I can wrestle, and you think this guy is the best wrestler, so I'm going to put on a clinic as best as I can. So I'm really intrigued to see what they do. Conversely, they could absolutely squash The Miz and just make Gunther look so dominant over him that no one could ever touch him, and he kind of puts his flag in the ground and say, not only am I the longest, I'm also the best Intercontinental champion as well. So again, a couple of different ways to go on it. We've got a comment from Dean. Gunther wins, gets to the mic, says he's the best in the world. Lights go out, punk chant start. Right. Okay, we'll address that. We'll address the CM Punk stuff next, because I feel like there's an ample opportunity to do so. Anyone else picked up on a few Jericho hints on commentary, them saying things like breaking the walls down, agony of defeat, etc. I can't say I have. There's definitely been a few CM Punk references thrown about, but I don't think they've been particularly subtle. I think they're playing into the social media side of that, but I haven't heard that. So well picked up if you have. Right. Okay. See, let's say who do you think is going to win here? I think I know what your answer is going to be, but.
So, I mean, you have Gunther win. You win clean. I wouldn't even have Imperium interfere.
No.
You want to keep them backstage because they're having the infighting, so you don't want that to make Gunther look weak in the outcome of the match, which it wouldn't anyway.
I agree. He hasn't needed them so far, and I've said it like on a couple of occasions where he's had maybe I feel it's a bit crap me saying tougher opponents, but tougher challenges, etc., to his IC reign, where he might have actually pulled that card because he hasn't done it yet. And if it perceives that he's got this big task and this Herculean task that actually you can't overcome someone like, I don't know, Cody Rhodes or LA Knight, then he might pull that because it's actually this is such a threat. I need to rely on the numbers rather than just myself. And it makes the person who he used that against look stronger. I don't see them needing that against The Miz, but they do have that whole angle backstage going on. So maybe there's something in that. It would be one of the biggest upsets. And I would see shocks if The Miz beats Gunther tomorrow night. So I think it's going to be Gunther quite easily, but I think it'll be a great match either way. Right. Let's talk about CM Punk. I don't have a slide for CM Punk. I could have put a picture of me dressed as CM Punk from years ago, where I was dressed. I thought it looked pretty cool. And Dean would probably say the same as well, as he was dressed as The Rock, but did get asked who he was supposed to be, which was hilarious. Anyway, CM Punk coming back straight away. Yes or no? Is CM Punk coming back tomorrow night in Chicago?
No. Straight no.
Straight no. So you're on Team Ant on that side then?
Yes.
Okay. So for anyone who's not aware, the rumors are and have been floating around. Obviously, the stars have aligned. CM Punk left AEW. Survivor Series is in Chicago's hometown, where they know that he always gets a great reception, no matter what status he is with whatever company. CM Punk will always be Chicago raised and absolutely loves it there, and people love him. But there's also chatter that he still has a long way to go in terms of mending the bridges that were burnt on both sides, not just from a CM Punk side, but also from WWE side. Let's not forget, as the story would have it, he was given his termination papers on his wedding day. That's quite a big thing to have to overcome, in my opinion. So I don't know. He doesn't strike me as the kind of person who money talks. It will be more a case of like, what can you give him? The only wrinkle to this, to me, is who Shinsuke Nakamura has been talking about in riddles, because it does feel like the only person that would fit would be CM Punk. So what I would ask you, Dan, if and only if Shinsuke comes out tomorrow and starts talking in the ring, is that an indication that something might happen, or do you think he's talking about someone else?
I still think he's talking about someone else. Even this, I've had a note for what I was doing for you. I would have LA Knight come out. He's getting the biggest pops of anyone at the minute. He's not on the card, and it's a big 4 card without your guy who's giving the biggest pops from anyone. And I just think it's such an easy match to do. You don't need any story. You've got Nakamura being this dastardly evil heel, and you've got this massive baby face. You have them do the one match because it's Survivor Series, and then go the separate ways again at the end of it. You don't need anything more than that for me. Just a great fun match for the fans.
Yeah, I struggle to if you're going to bring CM Punk back, it would have to be a big thing, and I think it would have to main event. So the only way I would ever believe it's happening tomorrow night is if somehow Shinsuke comes out after the main event and then starts talking. Then you'd be like, something's up. But that would be a really weird way to
end the show.
To end it, because Nakamura is not at the stage of his career where he can do that. And it would be an odd rhythm to the show as well. So then that would lead you to say, well, he might come out halfway through, but if he comes halfway through, the night becomes about CM Punk, and it doesn't matter what happens afterwards. It would overshadow anything that follows it. So I don't see it anymore. I think if they were going to do it, he would have had to have been introduced somehow into the War Games match, which again still would have been a bit awkward. So I won't say he won't join in the future. I would say it's definitely not now, though. And if it is, fair enough. I'll put an apology out on the next stream, but I just don't think it's happening. What have we got going on? Dean, just saying cooey.
I think it was in response to whoever it was from Give Me a Whole Year putting a message in.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if that was you, but I'm going to presume it could also be Sam, who's finished his massage or something at this point.
It could be. I'm just trying to find out where Monday Night Raw is going to be held on Monday, because if that's in Chicago, they might tease CM Punk and then bring him in for the Monday Night Raw to create a big pop. Oh no, it's in Nashville, so yeah, it's a bit far away from Chicago.
Ah, look who it is. It's Dom. Dom's going to be so happy because it's his two favorite people in the world on the same video. Isn't that right, Dom? We of course love you too, Dom. Another give me a whole yeah. I don't know what would you call you. What's the terminology you use?
What for?
For a follower of give me a whole yeah. I know you've got the whole. Is it Hulomaniacs, isn't it?
Hulomaniac, yes.
Hulomaniac, which you can be. You can go sign up to be. Is it a Patreon or a follower of Give Me a Whole Yeah on the channel?
Yeah, you can join the Give Me a Whole Yeah YouTube page for a small monthly fee. You'll get sort of few icons, few little emojis that you can use. You can, if you really want to be a Hulomaniac, go to our merch stall, givemehullyah.myspreadshop.co.uk, and you can actually get a t-shirt with Hulomaniac on there. You can even get that little logo that's just below me on a t-shirt as well. And there are other designs. We've got an NWO inspired one. We've got a Kevin Owens inspired one. There's quite a few designs on there. So if you do want any, take a photo, tweet out to us, and we'll respond, and we will tweet the hell out of it.
Absolutely. And we also have, as Dean is in Scenescape Shop, as always, go check out his YouTube channel, which is a great art channel where he does where he paints live, and he will kind of interact as well while you're on there. He paints commissions. He will paint the paintings that you can then go buy as well, so you can actually get to see the process of the painting being made and then go buy it. So always great to have Dean in, and of course you can also support him by becoming a Patreon over on his channel as well. If you want more details, go check out Scenescape Shop. Dean is doing some great work, and it'd be lovely for a Christmas present as well. So you can get yourself a Give Me a Whole Yeah t-shirt, get yourself some art from Dean, and just listen to me. That would make my Christmas very happy as well. So yeah, always great to have a good host of different people following the channel. And welcome to anyone who is joining us. We are, of course, talking about Survivor Series War Games, which is on tomorrow night, I believe, at 1 a.m. Well, technically it's Sunday morning, 1 a.m. From into Saturday night, etc. But yes, we are here to preview. We've previewed the first three matches. We're now going to move on, and we are going to preview the Women's Championship match, which I think is the World Women's Championship. I get confused what they've changed the names to.
Women's World Heavyweight Championship, I think.
Do they have the word heavyweight in there? It feels like
maybe. Probably not.
Women's World Champion. That's it. I think that's it. Anyway, Rhea Ripley's a champion. She's going to be up against Zoey Stark, which has been a bit of an interesting build because we've got Zoey Stark coming away from the whole Trish Stratus thing, branching out on her own, now has this weird kind of friendship going on with Shayna Baszler as well. Rhea Ripley, dominant champion, but also getting very much involved in Judgment Day politics and a little bit of kind of goings on. And the whole storyline here is she a bit too distracted and is overlooking Zoey Stark? Have you enjoyed this build? It's only been a couple of weeks, but do you enjoy what they're doing here?
Yeah, I think Zoey Stark is an amazing performer. She's come to the main roster with Trish Stratus as a bit like a guide, a bit like a mentor, and now she's standing on her own 2 feet. She's still got that little bit of support there with Shayna Baszler, which is quite nice because I think they should be a tag team. They should go on a massive run, take the tag titles, and hold them for a long while. It's a great pairing, I think. But Zoey Stark going against Rhea Ripley, I think it'll be a fun match. I think Rhea needs to let Zoey get quite a bit of in to show how good Zoey can be. But it ultimately fall a bit short, lose to Rhea. But I still think it'll be a really impressive performance from Zoey Stark, or I hope it will be.
Yeah, I think absolutely. The big thing for me is Zoey Stark has some ways to go when it comes to talking, and that's both sort of in the backstage videos and most definitely the promos in the ring. But what she is very good at is once that bell rings, she is a believable technical wrestler, which I think is the best thing for her here is get her in the ring, ring that bell, and let the two of them just have like a bit of a bruising encounter, a good back and forward. I think for me, Rhea Ripley needs to make sure that there are opportunities for people to get over because she's so popular and so dominant that it's making potentially the rest of the Raw roster look a little bit weak because no one can get on her level. That needs to change. You need to have viable people who can kind of like be realistic. Oh, I'm going to take the title off you, and not just with a cash in, etc. So I think this is a good opportunity to build a couple of new people like Shotzi in the other match, and having Zoey have a very strong show in here as well. So a good opportunity just for her to do what she's best at, which is get in the ring and put on a good match. In terms of moving on after this, presumably you think Rhea is going to pick up the victory here. I don't want to speak for you, but I would assume so. Where are we going in terms of like who's left? Because we had that massive multi-woman match in Crown Jewel, and you kind of ran through everyone. So who does that leave next after this
one? I think from after this match all the way up until Royal Rumble, I don't think we'll see much in terms of women's matches for the world title. I think it'll be more about the Judgment Day storyline. We know we're supposed to see sort of titles being defended on a regular basis, but Roman Reigns has thrown that out the water. Yeah. So for me, I don't think you need to focus on as the champion. I think you need to focus more on building someone maybe for a Royal Rumble match, which you could put quite a few people in that match. Becky, Bianca, Charlotte. There is other people that you could put in there, but I don't think that's the main point of what we're going to be seeing over the next sort of couple of months, or at least until the Royal Rumble match itself. I think it'll be all about the Judgment Day story. Maybe Judgment Day's a slow implosion if Damian Priest ends up cashing in his Money in the Bank. Or are you trying to hold that faction together as a unit? But I don't know who it would be, but I don't think it's going to be a major point of a Monday Night Raw storyline forward.
Yeah, it does feel like her fate as a title holder and also as like people getting anywhere close to it is very much tied up in Judgment Day's future as well. There's people kind of speculating will she have made a deal with Drew where the briefcase might end up with Drew instead of Damian Priest, and she's the kind of instigator behind that. And then maybe that leads to things like, will someone try and get back at her and make sure that she has to defend her title, and that's how she loses the title. They've very carefully positioned Becky well away from Rhea, which I think is very noticeable. So because they've removed her so much, it feels like you're waiting for the right time to give us Becky Lynch versus Rhea Ripley for a title. Very similar to, I thought last year they were going to pull the trigger on Rhea versus Bianca, but Bianca's away over on SmackDown because easily see those two as the face of the women's division for years to come. So it'd be interesting to see if their paths will ever eventually cross, because it has been teased. We just haven't had it yet. So there's a couple of people straight away. Obviously, she had that amazing match last year with Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania as well. So they put on another one at any point, really, because they've got that chemistry where they can deliver. But it definitely seems geared towards whatever Royal Rumble winner will have that chance to go after Rhea and kind of state the claim at WrestleMania. But I think we need to get the Judgment Day politics out of the way before we really see Rhea come back into the women's roster fully, and then start to see some more viable people. But in terms of, I like your idea of Zoey Stark and Shayna Baszler becoming a dominant tag team. I'd be up for that. We haven't got the women's tag titles on this show. What do you think of the job they've been doing with Chelsea Green and Piper Niven in the tag division?
I think they've been doing exactly what they need to with Chelsea Green. She's been such a fun Karen. I hate the phrase, but a Karen style character. You all know what I mean. And I think that being able to give Piper Niven a bit of a platform, it should be a good thing for her. But I think she's been wasted in a way. Piper Niven can go in the ring. She can be a dominant heel. She can be a good babyface if need. But I just think that teaming with Chelsea Green, it seemed like a bit of a waste for me. She'd be so much better being like a fifth member of a War Games team because of the way that she can present herself in that sort of match.
Yeah, very different to anyone else who's kind of in them as well. So I get what you mean, but they're presenting them, I guess, as an odd couple where she's the sort of the muscle behind them, and if Chelsea Green gets too gobby, then Piper Niven steps in to kind of fight her battles for
the
her.
muscle.
Yeah, it's almost like I don't know why it reminds me a little bit of in The Simpsons, where Martin and Nelson have that weird buddy episode.
Yeah.
So Piper Niven's kind of in not the bully side of things, but she's the muscle. Whereas obviously we've got Chelsea Green, just is hilarious. She's doing a great job of putting it across. Fortunately, it was really funny on commentary on Monday. But it definitely feels like there was a shift in the last few weeks towards presenting tag teams, both women and male as well. So it'd be interesting to see where we're going with that, because I believe on Monday we're going to see, is it a battle royal or is it just like a massive tag team match?
Tag team turmoil, I think they've called it.
Okay.
Let's have a look. I did have it up a minute ago.
I don't know whether that means it's going to be a gauntlet match or whether it's like a sort of one after the other or what that means. So because it looked like they had about 4 or 5, and it obviously can't have more than 4 if it's all at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, there's a men's team turmoil announced, but that's it in terms of tag team matches. There's no women's match announced. Yeah.
Well, they had theirs on Monday just gone, didn't they? And it was Natalia and Tegan Knox, the new number 1 contenders or whatever you kind of want to call them. But yeah, lots of moves going on in the tag division. So interesting to see how that heats up. I'm really hoping DIY get a chance to kind of shine as the tag team, because for me, they deserve it. For all the work that happened in NXT, they deserve to be able to play out a story in front of millions of people, because it is one of the best I've seen in recent years in any kind of wrestling promotion. So hopefully DIY gets to go quite deep in that one. So we're going to move on to the main event of the night, or I predict is going to be the main event of the night, which is the men's War Games match, which is Judgment Day plus Drew McIntyre versus the superstar team of Sami Zayn, Cody Rhodes, Jey Uso, Seth Rollins, and the returning Apex Predator, the Viper. Randy Orton is back in WWE tomorrow night. Yeah, there's a lot going on here. We've got to unpack a lot into here. I expect the video of the pre-match video is going to be something pretty special tomorrow night. They've got a lot of footage and a lot of storylines to play with. This feels like it's been building for weeks. What have you made of the build to the match to start with?
Perfect. We sometimes complain that matches feel thrown together, especially these big multi-man matches. But this one from 3 months ago, 6 months ago, it's felt like an organic build with each character having a specific reason for being there. Everyone has a claim to be in this match, and that's what you want. You want proper storytelling. The original War Games matches from, I think it was 88 and 89, was proper blood feuds. And that's what this feels like. Yeah. And that's what we want. We want proper in-depth, not super long-term storytelling, because we don't need super long-term, but this has been built long enough where it's going to feel like a proper war, which is exactly what we want.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think the Judgment Day slow build to be the dominant faction has been great. They've also the whole way through, they've never been quite the happy family. They've always had like some sort of infighting going on or something happening. They've drip fed JD McDonough in, but they did it long enough ago for it to mean something to eventually bring him in officially. Even the Drew inclusion felt like it's been happening over the course of weeks, not in the last few days. It's been a case of like he's going to go in that direction or he's going to go in this direction. But yeah, it definitely feels like there's been this is WWE showcasing we can do long-term storytelling, even down to Jey Uso's look when Randy Orton was confirmed. Jey Uso giving that sort of like, yeah, okay, cool, but also like the last time I saw him, I beat him up and left him out on the shelf for months. So there's a lot going on in terms of like the inter relationships within the teams as well. I'm really interested to see Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes together because we haven't had to have that yet, which is great to see that. Obviously, Seth Rollins has a history with not just Randy Orton, but Cody Rhodes. And then we've got Sami Zayn being Sami Zayn, who is just trying to make sure people know he belongs and that he should be in these kind of matches and that he is in the main event, and also just standing up to bullies, which is very meta in terms of what he's talking about, spreads wider than wrestling. So it's really cool to have all that kind of going on too. All while Judgment Day has a little bit of a political problem going on in terms of who's the leader. So really, really cool to see it going down. What do you want to see from this match? What would you like to see happen?
For me, I think Judgment Day have to be dominant. They are the well-oiled faction, if you like, and having them play well together and be able to look sort of super dominant, super gelled, it creates the fact that they are a proper team. But I would also have, just as a sneaky little sort of teasing, have Damian Priest bring his briefcase out and just set it inside the cage to the side somewhere and just keep looking over at it, teasing that. I don't think we'll get a cash in, but I do think that you want to have Seth keep looking over his shoulder at Damian Priest, and it could end up in the finish of the match for me. Have that little bit of teasing, which I think would be quite fun. And again, alluding to what you said earlier on, I do kind of want Randy Orton and a Jey Uso face off.
Yeah.
And then the enemy of my enemy is. So I want that to sort of play into the match a little bit.
Yeah.
Which, I think creates an in-match narrative. You could have Jey versus Randy after the match as a storyline going forward, as if to say, I've done this, I need to, in the War Games, now I want to get my revenge on you. So when I'm back as enemies.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it'd be interesting to see. I love the idea of the briefcase playing something in there, because that would introduce such a wrinkle where people are like, well, hold on, if he cashes in, what happens if he doesn't get the pin? And say like Drew McIntyre or even Dominic, heaven forbid, got the pin. And do they have to pin Seth? Or because it's like a multi-man match, does he just lose the title because his team lost? There's a lot of questions that go on, and maybe for that reason they'll steer clear of it actually being cashed in and not just sort of teased, as you said, because that's a bit of a murky waters to wade into of like, how does that work? But it would also be a very interesting way of moving the title around, potentially on someone like Drew or onto Finn, and carrying on that that aspect of there's a lot of infighting going on. But yeah, definitely see. For me, I see the babyface is going to win this. I think Randy Orton will potentially get the win on his return, but I can then see them all standing tall, and then an RKO out of nowhere to Jey Uso, just to say like, yeah, I haven't forgot. Like you put me on the shelf for ages, and it allows them to start their feud, but still pick up a win as well. So it keeps the babyfaces looking strong. It can sow a little bit of dissension in the ranks for whoever costs the Judgment Day, the match sort of thing. So it'd be really interesting to see. how it all plays out and where they go after this, because I think they need to sow the seeds through till January to get to the Royal Rumble, and keep this going on a little bit longer. So let's see what they do. We've got Daniel in, who was in on Wednesday as well. So always nice to see regular guests back in. So good evening and happy Friday to you, Daniel. Hope you've been doing some shopping on this Black Friday and got some good deals in. I did see earlier on, if anyone's interested, they're after some merch. WWE Euro Shop has a sale on Black Friday. I think it's about 20% off, or if not more. So if you're after any wrestling t-shirts, or add them to your wish list for your Christmas, go tell someone there's a deal on, they can save themselves some money and get them in now. Or if you just want the snazzy new RKO shirt that's come out, or the Randy Orton shirt, looks very nice, that's also on there. So go check out some of the merch you can get at the moment for a knockdown price. Daniel thinks we are going to get Randy RKO Seth, setting Randy's eyes on the heavyweight title. I hadn't actually thought about that, to be honest.
Yeah, great idea.
Yeah, and obviously, as we've said, they've got history together as well. One of the all-time great RKOs at WrestleMania. I popped at that where he went for the curb stomp and then was pushed up. Fantastic. Daniel's looking forward to the football tomorrow at lunchtime. Liverpool versus Man City. Let us know, Daniel, who are you supporting there, Liverpool or Man City?
I'm a Liverpool fan through and through. So is Daniel Wiley. I know he's a Liverpool fan.
Oh, there you go. Well, you never walk alone, do you, I guess?
He's a good lad.
I'll be watching that and then going straight into the Newcastle versus Chelsea game up here in Newcastle. So Dean very rightly points out, Daniel, Danny, Dom, Dean on chat. Our Survivor Series is called 4D. Yeah, fair enough.
I just had a quick look to what you were saying earlier on about if you had to pin the champion to win the title. Yeah. WrestleMania 31, Brock walked in as champion, but Seth turned it into a multi-man match and pinned Roman. So he didn't need to pin the champion to win the title.
Yeah,
I don't think it will affect this match.
Yeah, it's a tag team match. It'd be interesting to see how they would spin that one. I'd love to see it, because I think people would, social media will explode with people going like, nah, you can't do that. That's a load of crap or whatever. So it'd be really interesting to see if they had the balls to do it. Go on, I dare you, WWE, to introduce that in tomorrow and just cause absolute havoc when Dominic Mysterio somehow gets the pin and ends up the World Heavyweight Champion. No, there isn't a Greg's in the stadium. Wind your neck in, Danny. We don't have Greg's in the stadium. We have very nice pies and hot dogs instead. Our Survivor Series team doesn't even have team in the title. Yeah, you just be Team D then, wouldn't you, really? Or D team, which I think, I don't think you really want to be called that. That might be something else.
Better than the B team.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Anyway, back onto wrestling. So main event, I think, is going to be there. I think the babyface is going to win. I also think we'll then see Randy Orton RKO someone, probably Jey Uso, to set up a feud running out of this. But I think the baby faces will continue to look strong, just purely for storyline reason. It makes Judgment Day look a bit weaker. It also would then separate Drew away from them. And if for whatever reason he's the one who gets the loss, or it's his fault for some reason, maybe they introduce Gallus as Drew McIntyre's faction moving forward. They've got that very strong Scottish link going on. For anyone who doesn't know who Gallus are, that is Wolfgang, Mark, and Joe Coffey down in NXT at the moment. So if they were to be brought up, it would make sense. They've all worked together. Drew's actually talked about them in interviews before and put them over in terms of both opponents and teammates. So seeing Drew as a leader of a faction could be a really interesting one, and set him up against the Judgment Day, because that would be very much even numbers moving forward. So I could get behind that. It'd be interesting to see who they turn heel and face in that situation, because Gallus are always the bad guys. But as they say, Gallus boys on top as well. So interesting one to see if we get Gallus introduced, because they're the other team that apparently appear in the Survivor Series program that people will be able to buy tomorrow night, or might already have bought in the Super Shop over in Chicago. But that's it in terms of the matches. We might get one more added tonight. We might see something in the sense of SmackDown throwing something into proceedings. It does feel like we're maybe one short. But the thing to remember is the War Games matches are a very long ordeal because the match doesn't officially start until every competitor is in the ring. And I don't know, are they keeping it as 5 minutes or are they just saying that at regularly scheduled intervals?
I mean, it says regularly scheduled interviews on this, and it says it in Royal Rumble.
Yeah,
But it's not. They play with the time to suit their story and narrative in the match usually. So
yeah,
I've actually sat and done it myself. Sometimes it's been as little as 60 seconds. Sometimes it's been as much as, I think the longest was 1 minute and 50 seconds from entrance. So to me, I think they use regularly scheduled intervals to keep it open, not keep it too specific. But I think on War Games, they are a little bit tighter on that official 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 3 minutes, or whatever it is.
So also just to finish off then, I'll let you predict, and I want to hear people's predictions in the comments as well. Who are going to be the starters? Who are going to be the Iron Men of each team here? So who's going to enter the ring first and be in it the whole way through?
I'm going to go for Sami Zayn. I would probably have Jade done a start from the Judgement Day.
Yeah.
I think them two together would be quite an entertaining pairing. They're both good workers. Dunnan needs to put on a show, I think. So I think that having him start the match does create a good bit of narrative of it could be the in man. I don't think he'll put on the best performance of the night by a long shot, but I do think that he needs to be looked at as, I want to be part of the Judgment Day. You've just invited me into the sort of faction, so I want to start the team to show you what I can do.
Yeah, I think even logistically, you've got to look at it from the point of view of who's going to get the smallest pop when it's their time to go in. So if you start with Sammy or Jay on the babyface team, you are probably looking at JD McDonough because everyone else, when that buzzer goes off to let them in, you're either going to get a massive boo for Dominic, you're going to get a good reaction for anyone else on that team. And the same goes for the baby faces. You want Cody to get a monster pop. You want Randy to get the biggest pop of the night. Seth, as champion, needs a big noise and probably would get it. So I'd be surprised if it's not JD on one team, and it's difficult. I think it's going to be either Jay or Sammy on the other. It could be Jay because just if you think about it from the point of view, you want Randy to have that moment where they face off, and it's going to be a bit weird if it's in a cage. But then again, do you lock in a cage and you kind of keep having the camera go back as to, are they talking? Are they staying away from each other? Do they address that at all? So a lot of things, moving parts going on there.
I mean, I was actually thinking of your point there. I was actually thinking not having Randy in the cage at all and have him have, say, travel issues, he's struggling to get to the arena, and then have him show up. They might sort of say the countdown time is gone, the 3 minutes are up, music hits, he doesn't show up, and then they say that he's still in traffic or something, and then have him come out like a minute later. That way you don't actually have to have him in the cage facing off. You can save it for actually in the ring itself if you're not having Jay start the match.
And I guess in the meantime, you have the baby faces getting absolutely wailed on and beaten down. And then when the crowd builds and builds and builds, that's when you give the, I hear voices in my head. And then you go for it then. I mean, I would actually love it if he went back to his old theme tune because I prefer his old theme tune.
Yeah.
Maybe that's
nothing you can say.
Yeah, hey, nothing
you can say. Yeah.
No, I mean, we're not going to get done for copyright because it's not as good as the actual original. But, you know.
Would you have Drew come out to Broken Dreams?
I would, if he aligns with Gallus, yes, I would probably put him in Broken Dreams because I think it would suit that faction really well to have them come out to it. But we'll see. There's a lot that could be unpacked after this. I think you've got a great job on Monday when Raw kind of has to unravel the remains of this match and everything else. So it'll be interesting to see. And also, you've got that tag team match on Raw. We've got a couple more comments from Daniel coming in. Santos and Carlito, who's winning that? I think we both agreed Santos kind of has to win that to be strong.
Yeah.
But potentially there might be some outside interference going on and make things a little bit more interesting than it would be if it was, say, on a SmackDown, which it might have been any other week. Bron Breakker, Daniel, you seem to be a big fan of Bron Breakker. Yeah. His time is probably coming very soon. I'm not sure we'll see him until the night after WrestleMania. Might see him in the Royal Rumble. But he's very much locked into a feud with Von Wagner at the moment, isn't he?
Yeah. I want him to be called up sooner rather than later. I would want him finish the feud with Von Wagner, be in the Rumble, have a very dominant show, and then turn up on Monday Night Raw straight after.
Yeah, I think the big thing for him and Carmelo Hayes is you want to make sure that they've got the right story to be introduced into. That's why, for me personally, I think they might wait till after WrestleMania and one goes SmackDown, one goes Raw. That will be the way I kind of see it going. But hey, I'm not against either of them being brought up. I think they've both done their time in terms of building their character and their exposure over on NXT. And either of them could come up now and do a great job. I would just worry where they currently fit in. They need a good storyline. Maybe an open challenge, as it seems to be Daniel's kind of alluding to here. Or Bron versus someone big. Maybe like Omos. Oh, you mean as in like Randy? Okay, like Star-wise, Bron versus Randy. Maybe that time will come. Who knows? We'll see some multi-generational talents go head to head. But yeah, we'll see that. So that has been our chat about tomorrow night's Survivor Series War Games. If you're watching this in the future, feel free to let us know how wrong we were in all our predictions. That's always fun as well. But a big thank you for everyone joining us, and especially to Dan, who I'm going to let Dan take it away for the next minute or so. Where can we see you next, and why should they be tuning in to Give Me a Hell Yeah?
You can see me tomorrow night or Sunday morning UK time for Survivor Series over on Give Me a Hell Yeah. I'll be doing coverage from about sort of 10-15 minutes beforehand to have a quick chat about what we've learned from SmackDown later on tonight. You can come and hang out with me on Monday Night Raw. We do also have AW Dynamite cover. We do cover SmackDown, but Sam is on his own. He will leave, we'll call it, from the whole year. He's off getting pampered. He's getting probably massaged and oiled up and whatever else he wants.
And that's just
well, I mean, I won't tell you the messages he sent to me, but yeah, not far off.
Yeah, he really shouldn't send picture messages. It's not nice.
Not when it's solicited.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be, I think it's going to be a cracking show. It's going to probably be about sort of 3.5, 4 hours. So if you want to come and see what snacks I've got, get yourself down tomorrow night. I'll be a hungry man. I will be eating a lot. I might even have a couple of beers, which is not something I regularly do on a stream.
Well, if you want to tune in and see Dan have a couple of beers, Give Me a Hell Yeah is the place to be. And like Stone Cold, maybe you'll smash them together over his nice leather sofa that you can go and clean up afterwards. Or maybe not, he might just eat some very nice snacks. I will probably be commenting along. The reason why I haven't volunteered to join Dan is because I'm getting old, and quite frankly, you don't want to watch my eyes roll in the back of the head like Undertaker while trying to watch a stream. But I will eventually regain my stamina of staying up late night and joining Sam and Dan for future premium live events, SmackDowns. I can't ever promise you I'll be on Raw because that's a Monday night, it's a school night, and we want to see that on a Monday night. It's not the way to start the week and crash the ratings over and Give Me a Hell Yeah. But anyway, it's been absolutely spectacular to have you on the channel as always, Dan, and thank you very much for joining me. And please go subscribe across to Give Me a Hell Yeah and tune in tomorrow night where you can watch along, have the TV on, watch it, and you can listen to Dan as well. If you get sick of Michael Cole, it's definitely a great alternative way of commenting on the night. So go listen to Dan and watch Survivor Series together. It's a great wrestling community to be part of over on Give Me a Whole Yes. Go give them a subscribe and follow. And obviously, while you're there, or while you're here, I should say, hit that subscribe button for myself, for Wrestling Royalty. And we'll see Dan and Sam very soon. And all there is left to say is, I've been Andy, he's been Dan. This has been Wrestling Royalty.